All right, we're live.
All right, folks, we're back. Post-game wrap-up show. Better than the last 2 weeks, I guess.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. It's frustrating. Let's lead it off. Cincinnati, number 24, Cincinnati beats USF 28-24 at home. It was their homecoming. They won for the 30th straight time at home. I think that's 19 straight wins in conference play or something like that. They've beaten USF 6 straight times. They take a 13-7 lead in the series altogether. I think USF did basically everything they could outside of winning this game. They didn't really shoot themselves in the foot too much with turnovers, which is a huge thing. They didn't give up a sack even with the makeshift offensive line, and we'll talk about that. But Seth, it really kind of boiled down to that fourth down play. I think you've got the cut up. Let's just dive in and we'll go straight to it.
Yeah, let's do it. So here we got the fourth down play. We'll back it up a second here. 4th and 1. So we'll back it up so you can kind of see. So you got 3 out here. You're going to get matched with 3. He ends up coming over late. So you're going to get matched with 3 Cincinnati defenders out there. I think you have a safety, and then you have the box you'll see here. So the play call onto the surface, the way it turned out, it looked pretty bad just because of the kind of result here. The play call is not terrible. There's one thing I don't like about it. So you have 3-on-3 up here. So theoretically, I think you got 3 guys out there. If you get these blocked, you still should have a decent play. So they're going to flare him out from here. And the quarterback's this is where I don't like the design of the play. And then you're going to be running like a counter scheme with the quarterback here. I don't like that they left him static. If they motion him out a little bit, I think it makes the read a little bit more clear because the read, I'd imagine, is him. And you're thinking, it's a foot race to the sideline between Battie and a linebacker. If this guy doesn't fly out right away, which he kind of slow plays and then gets out late, you're thinking, okay, Battie's got a step in this race. I'm going to throw it to him, right? But it's a little cloudy because you don't make him give his intentions until after the ball is snapped. I would like to see motion here. Just not – he doesn't have to get out far, but just out a little bit and make this guy declare what he's going to do. Because what ends up happening is both these guys run out. Now, I think they still would pick up the first down if you get this block right here. But after you can kind of see after the play, you probably would have been pretty good keeping it here. So right here, if it's like a race between these two to the sideline and he's got him outflanked already, to me, I'm like, okay, I'm okay with that. If you can hold this block, I think he's going to win the race to the sideline, right? What you end up getting over here is they do a pretty good job down blocking this thing. You'd have a kick here and you have a wrapper for probably the safety. So if he keeps this, he might be going to the safety, and this may be a touchdown if he keeps it. But to me, the tough part for Bohannon here is the read after having to read this post-snap. Because right here, watch him. Eyes on him. He doesn't fly out right away. His first step is actually in. Yep. So I'm thinking if he's in, I'm throwing it, right? It's a foot race. He's slower, and I've already got a step. Now, if he's able just to hit this thing 100 miles per hour, he probably gets the first down. He's got to cut this thing back because this guy gets off the block, and that slows him down enough where the backer can get there. To me, it's really just a little design tweak on this play. If you just motion him out a little bit, just to there. You don't have to motion all the way out, but motion him to there. Make this guy declare his intentions. Because if he just goes out of the box right now,
then
you're definitely keeping it down here. And like we said, you keep it down there. I mean, good job here. I think it's Greenwald. Good job washing that all down. You might score there.
Right.
So it's just you didn't make it totally clear for the quarterback. You kind of left it a little cloudy. and then this block right here kills you. So not as bad a call as initially looked, I think, but there's still a couple things you could have cleaned up on it to make it a little bit easier for the quarterback. And if you just do that one thing, just put him in motion a little bit early, you may have scored a touchdown on that play.
Right, and I think that may be the theme for today's game is for all the good that Gary did running the ball, he was not very effective throwing the ball today. I think that fourth down play kind of boils down to a decision-making thing, not an actually throwing the ball kind of thing for him.
Yeah.
But he misses Weaver on that short screen on the third down when they're kind of pinned deep. A few balls kind of got airmailed. They kind of get Cincinnati gets away with a pass interference because the ball is just completely uncatchable. Those little things kind of add up for Gary. He finished 10 of 20 for 121 yards and 2 touchdowns. And it's, the good and the bad with Gary. We talked about in the at the halftime show that corner route was you dropped it right into the bucket. So it's real hit or miss. That's always been his issue. And it seems like, from Jeff Scott, when they run him a lot, he gets banged up a little bit, and it tends to affect him. May have pulled up a little lame with his hamstring on that 59-yard touchdown, 59-yard run. So it's like, what do you do? It was his calling card that he always ended up injured, and it's kind of coming to fruition at the worst possible time for this offense.
Yeah, but I think the issue is, right, that to make this offense go at its full potential, he has to run the football. When he does that, it opens up everything else. It opens up the run game even more because you couple that with the jet motion and all this misdirection, and it makes them really tough to defend in the run game. Jeff Scott said in his postgame that they did a good job being able to scheme up the run game against Cincinnati because not many people have been able to run on them. And that's what it was. They did the same stuff to Florida, and that's how they gashed them for so many yards. Misdirection, motion, and all that kind of stems off believing that Bohannon could keep the ball in the run game. So when you take that away from him, I think it really hurts the offense, as you saw against Louisville. They took that away from him. The offense was terrible against Louisville. You kind of add it back in last week. You probably should have scored about 40 last week, and then this week you play pretty well against a really good defense. So
right.
That's got to be an element going forward, but you got to kind of try to figure out how you can do that with limiting the hits on him.
Yep, and Jimmy Horn limited again with an ankle injury. Jeff Scott said he was probably one of 8 guys who probably could have not played today but decided to play. He also pointed out Meach Harris is one of them who's dealing with a foot injury. Just the sheer bad luck of injuries on this team this year just kind of adds up. Rashad Cheney went out with an ankle injury. Jeff Scott said it's more than likely season ending for him. And once he went out, Cincinnati was able to run the ball really, really well against the Bulls. Nick Baggs is not Rashad Cheney, and I think we're learning that. 265-pound Jatorian Hansford is not a 300-pound defensive tackle, and it started to show. McClellan was able to do basically anything he wanted in that second half and was able to ice the game away. Plus, you throw in missed tackles and missed assignments, and it really lends to a pretty bad defense.
Yeah, well, that's kind of – if you listen to us at halftime, that's what we thought was going to happen. We kind of thought that you kind of got as good as you got from the USF defense. Kind of you got their best in the first half. You ended up getting more stops in the second half than I think even we anticipated. But you just knew they weren't going to kind of – you couldn't rely on them to get that pivotal stop when needed. And that's not something I don't think you can go into the game. That's why it's, even though it's super early in the game, I still kind of question why don't you go for a touchdown when you get the ball on the 4-yard line on the second drive of the game. I think you got to think that – I think the way you got to think about this defense is I need touchdowns to win games because I'm probably going to be giving up a lot of points. So anytime you got opportunities to get touchdowns instead of field goals, you should take them 4th down and 4 at the 4. They've got to start. And that's something like that's come up the last couple of weeks, and you can kind of include the 4th and 1 of that. These short yard, they've got to get some kind of package, a little bit better package for these short yardage situations because that's 2 weeks in a row on the goal or 2 weeks in a row on the goal line that you've come away with more points, or you come away with less points than you should have, and it ends up really costing you here. So
right, and see, I mean, they've been without Jaron Mangum for the bulk of the season. They still kind of haven't figured out short yardage plays, which that's the concerning thing, right? It's not like it's been a 1 week thing and you've got to figure out a new package. It's been 5 weeks of the same thing.
yeah, I mean, I think that's where you got to just take the wrappings off of Bohannon and just be like, hey man, you got to go get us this yard, which I think he can do. So that's got to be part of it. I think obviously Mangum being back would help. It seems like just having more of your rotation back might help at running back. They're really down, and it's kind of a shame almost that the goodwill is so far gone at this point, because this is a really,
Right.
like you said, the injury luck is brutal, but the goodwill is so far gone with this coaching staff that nobody wants to hear that. And so that's unfortunate for them, because this is probably a legit excuse,
Right.
but it's too late because we've heard a lot of ones that aren't legit before, right? So it's kind of too late for the legit excuses. But yeah, you got to be encouraged somewhat with the performance, but discouraged that you just can't seem to close these things out.
Yep, and now you get Tulane next week at home for homecoming, and I think Tulane is on its way, if not already, have beaten ECU. They kind of controlled that game from start to finish. I think the last time I saw they were up 24-9, really kind of handling things.
Still up 24-9. ECU's going in to maybe score though, but they might.
They did score
24-9. Minute 13 left. Looks like ECU has the ball. I don't know if they're going to score or not, but for all intents and purposes, that one's over.
Right. So now you're going up against a Tulane team who is hot. They've figured some things out
and got a really good defense.
And they have a really good defense. So good luck. I'm not getting my hopes up again. I'm not doing it. After the last 2 weeks, after that Florida game, there's no shot that I'm thinking that USF's going to compete against Tulane.
No.
There's just no way. But with that said, I think we'll wrap up here. I'm actually going to go do some Halloween spooky stuff with the kids.
There you go.
Up in Newport Richey, they got that spooky train up there. Hope everybody enjoys the rest of their Saturday. It was bad. It wasn't nearly as terrible as it could have been. I don't know if this hurts more or less than getting blown out, but it equally sucks for Nathan and Seth. Have a good night. Go Bulls.